What's happening, guys?
I choked in that last race bad. I hit the wall. I was the first caution. It's so freaking tight. I thought it was. I guess I think my P4 last night disguised how I felt about the set, but after running today, it's just so tight. I suck out there. I don't know what I'm doing.
Didn't you get a fourth last time?
Yeah. And then today I got 16th. It should have been 21st.
Who's all here today? Is it? I see Tony Rochette. Is he doing the show tonight?
Usually no, he doesn't do the show.
Okay, saw him in the script notes, but I think he's gone now.
So we're looking for Evan and Greg. I haven't heard David yet.
I was fixing food.
I heard Dave. Yeah.
Okay.
Boys.
Hey.
Let's go, man.
Living the dream?
Deja vu? I'm actually about to order an Amazon order. I need a new screen protector. I dropped my phone. It cracked.
Hey, Mike, was it Steven that bought the Logitech sound system?
Yeah.
Did he ever say how good it was?
Briefly.
I wonder, I'm thinking about investing in it and getting away from using all the sound in my headphones.
I can't do that in an apartment.
The stream's up.
So are you gonna read that ad, Mike, or what do you want to do with that from a
Let me
release
see
thing?
where it is. Yeah, I will read it before we go to stories.
10-4.
Now, how much do you want to elaborate besides what is read there? Do you want to say something else?
Probably for the first time, like this week, we could probably talk a little bit more about it than then after. It's just reading the ad each week, right?
What I'm getting at is, do you want to say, oh, well, we ran these sets this week?
What I'll say is right now is, like, I was gonna incorporate, like, say that, the choice of iRacers Lounge said it, but I was just left that part out. So I was just gonna say he's sponsoring. We're not gonna, or they're sponsoring. We're not.
We're not going to say those kind of things. Okay, got it.
Yeah, just to keep it right now and see how it goes.
Oh, I'm going to
Set was
message
closer.
Evan.
The set was closer last night. Still a little tight.
Well, you said you debriefed with him, right?
Yep. Can we need to get him where he can see telemetry.
Well, he runs his own telemetry. He runs Motec. It's funny. He could tell that the car needed more cross weight by just watching you drive.
So let's
But
go
tire
ahead
wear
and
was even. It was a trip.
hit record, and hopefully Evan's on the way. And as soon as he gets here, we'll start. Multi-record, which I screwed up last time. Huh. Okay, he's not seeing my message.
Well,
So,
we just drop him in when he shows like we usually do.
yeah. So let me think of how we'll do this. So we'll do intros. I'll go right into the sponsor, and then we'll go into the Almost Pro with Brian.
I was gonna say you're just gonna say that our new about our new sponsor like joining us this week, or like kind of that way, like, and congratulations or not congratulations, thrilled to announce or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I know what to say. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start here shortly. Tony, are you going to record?
Let me check on something.
Yes, your wife's watching.
Nope, I'm not going to record. My free space is like crazy low.
Okay, so
No wonder I've been having computer issues.
all right, well, here we go.
Yeah, those multi-track sessions actually take up a lot of space because it doesn't record MP3; it records WAV.
Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I am your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, Brian McCubbin.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, David Hall,
Afternoon.
Greg Hectus,
Isn't it the evening?
and Tony Groves.
Yep. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, well, welcome. Well, here we go, another week. We're going to jump right into news, but we have a new sponsor for our news segments this week. And so I want to give a big shout out to Schoolyard Setups. And if you're struggling to crawl into the top 10 in Road to Pro, always in the back of the Xfinity, or can't find that extra tenth to compete for wins in NIS, visit schoolyardsetups.com to get race-ready setups for A, B, or C each week. Enter referral code 207124 when you sign up to let them know you heard about it from the iRacers Lounge podcast. Don't get bullied around on the racetrack again. Get your sets at schoolyardsetups.com. So happy to have them on board to help us keep this show going, and what a great association going forward. And with that,
We look forward to working with them, definitely.
yeah, absolutely. So, got to have setups, I tell you that. So, Brian, tell us about this first one, the Almost Pro 10K.
Yeah, guys, if you remember, we talked about this last week. This is the Almost Pro $10,000 results. Is that right? 10K? And it was the MX Cup cars at the Charlotte Roval, and after all the heats and everything else, the checker flag was taken by Rasim Ferruzi, is what I'm going to say. I think that's right. But yeah, Rasim Ferruzi, he won the top prize in that Almost Pro MX Cup at the Richmond Roval.
Now I watched part of this, and it was kind of interesting. There was some carnage for sure, where some people, got mixed up in some incidents and different things, especially in the chicane. But what was interesting is two team cars in identical paints out front, first, second. I don't know if it ended up being this guy or it was other two people, but they were pushing each other, literally, like push drafting especially on the straight, and they were building a gap over everybody else because of that. I don't think it lasted, but that's kind of how the race started, and I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah, that's
Although-
pretty cool. I wonder if they had that all planned out. I'm sure they probably tested that pushing setup and see if it worked. And apparently it did. Maybe, yeah.
Well, any extra, those cars are based on very little speed, right? So if anything you can get on the straightaways to increase a bit is going to have an advantage over the competitor, right?
Yeah, it's a momentum car. And even in road, anytime you're cooperating instead of fighting each other and defending and not giving and having to take less optimal lines, it's going to slow you down. If you just get in line, you're generally going to be faster until it's time to make the pass.
Well, I was thinking at the time, if the guy in second who's doing the pushing, I wonder what kind of financial arrangement, he came to with his teammate. Hey, I'll push you to the win, and but you got to give me half.
Well,
Maybe it wasn't pushing to the win. Maybe it was just push it till we get a gap so we can fight by ourselves and not worry about anybody else.
that and kind of, how often in Indy you would drop out of the lead to save fuel, right? And particularly in this car, if you don't end up taking tires, if you're the guy pushing, you have to take less fuel and you probably end up passing in pits.
Yeah, I think I got distracted, but I watched some of it, and it was entertaining. So.
So our next article has to do with iRacing color. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. I saw it when we posted this in the chat earlier. And this guy, he never felt like the colors were right. Maybe it's affecting a little bit of the realism, and found a way to affect a camera filter and get what he thinks are more realistic colors.
I think I was the one that found this one and posted it on our messenger, and I thought, just looking at the pictures, he's definitely got an idea of what it should look like. It does look a lot better, and there's less yellow tinge to the color to have it show like there's more detail. It seems to come out with it without being yellow.
And if it's closer to real life, it may just take away. It may make it just a little bit more immersive. I haven't tried it, but it seems like a good something worth trying.
I think I've always heard or thought of, or maybe have seen myself a soft yellow tint to everything in iRacing. It's just a little bit yellower than it should be. And so that's what this guy is basically saying. And he said, hey, you can go into your NVIDIA settings and change the brightness, contrast, exposure, gamma, and everything else to these numbers, and it will make it more of a blue. Some of the people in the forum post were saying it was too blue, though.
Well, it may end up coming down to your monitors as well. Or even the room you're in can affect how you see the monitor.
And read a little further down in the post, they said that it didn't really make a big effect in VR too. So maybe it's just for monitors that this thing works.
Well, color tinting can it be affected the same way? How you can get nose blind to something, right? You kind of get eye blind to certain things too. Like if you've gotten used to it a certain way, and then you make a switch. You may see it at first, but then you almost immediately adjust to it, and you start seeing it as normal. And particularly in VR, that's all you're seeing, so you're not comparing it to anything around you.
One of the posters, Julius Pfaffelebusch from Frankfurt, he said the iRacing white balance is a bit off. In theory, TV cameras have a proper white balance. Although I agree that this example is quite extreme, it doesn't change that iRacing's white balance is off.
Well, and any of these things can be edited to look a certain way, right? Like it's the same as photography, right? This thing is something that has so many different ways that you can look at it. And like David said, like someone's older monitor to a brand new monitor, it's going to look totally different no matter what settings you put in.
Right.
It's something worth trying, but it's one of those things that's, you know, do what you like. If you switch it and you like it, cool deal. It's good that you can switch it.
So, yeah, he says how to do it. He says hit Alt-Z, and that will fire up your NVIDIA settings. Did not know that. I tried it, and sure enough, you'll get some settings that you can change. But I drilled into where he told me to drill in, and I didn't have the options that he did, so I don't know if I have different drivers than he did, but I wasn't able to try it myself. But it is an interesting idea.
It's pretty cool because some of the people who commented on the forum posts was like a guy like Tyler Stooksbury, and he's like a professional director of photography and a colorist for high-end productions. So he chimed in on this, and he had some really good, you know, professional input to what the link was talking about. I was really interested reading.
Yeah, and then he shared his settings, or is that the other guy?
That was the other guy. I think
Yeah, I think the photography guy, he was saying that he was the one who said it looked a little too blue. I'm paraphrasing. What the other guy had changed it to, but I see what he's talking about when they say the yellow tint. I've heard of that, and I've seen that before.
You know, a photography guy is going to be more attuned to something like that anyway, because that's kind of their job.
So the next topic we've kind of got here is one of my favorite people to see about iRacing information and what's going on in his life. Bernard Pollard Jr. on Twitter posted what day was this? On the 18th of September that he's just learned to drive with 2 feet in iRacing, and I thought it was kind of very interesting to know that. I wonder if you took a poll, how many people actually drive with 1 foot in the sim compared to, well, obviously 2 feet will be the most, but how many people still actually drive with 1 foot like they drive their car?
That's a good point. And you know, if you've been driving for a car for years before you actually get into iRacing, it's probably something you're not real comfortable with, you know, or maybe you never get comfortable with it. But I remember a long time ago when I first got into sim racing, when I was doing NASCAR racing, I was looking up some articles about how to get better at it, and like the first thing they say is drive with 2 feet. Real race car drivers do it. You should too. I remember that from years ago.
Well, like even in real life, I drive a truck for a living, and it's an 18 speed. But the only time you use your second foot is when you're moving away from like a stop sign or a stoplight. There's no after that. It's you're driving with 1 foot for the rest of the day, even when you're shifting.
It's interesting video that he put up because he talks about how hard it is to transition to that, and it really brought me back to my rookie days when I had to learn how to 2 foot drive, and I think everybody goes through that. But I was using that just today at Vegas on the restarts. I'm holding the brake and hitting the gas at the same time so I get the revs up before the start. So I definitely 2 foot brake, and I think you have to be competitive. And Bernard has learned that.
Well, you just saying there, Mike, about the 1 foot on the brake and revving it up to get going. He posted, I don't know if you saw his post, I think it was from today, that he was trying to seek out how to do better restarts because he was losing time on restarts, and like he's reaching out to the community and trying to be like, he is really involved in this and is really asking everybody for their opinion on it. And there was probably about 50 or 60 different posts on helping him out, trying to figure out what to do on the restarts to help him get going better. And he even then he was responding to most of the people's tweets, thanking them for their suggestions.
Oh yeah, if you're into Twitter and you want to talk about iRacing, you need to follow Bernard Pollard because, yeah, a lot of iRacers are giving him, real advice for sure. And apparently, he did post earlier too about the California race that we talked about, the '87 cars, and he said, "I hate that '87 car."
That's funny. He said that.
Apparently, it was pretty hard for him to drive.
Yeah, that's probably not the car you want to drive when you're first getting into iRacing.
Hey Tony, I think someone's taking a shot at Mike on Twitter, but for the whole lounge.
Nah, no one's taking a shot at Mike, but they are offering up some advice, maybe. Jason Bossy let us know that, Mike, there is a button to view the results in the UI. I know you've been really, really wanting to hate on this, but you've been gracious enough to, give it some, honest goes, and you've been running into snags, and hopefully this one will clear this up. That's I believe that was just in this last patch that was released. We can view the results. Now I haven't tested this out, so hopefully it's nice and easy. I know, Mike, you were having some issues trying to working with the filters on how to filter certain races and stuff, and it is really kind of weird how they set that. So hopefully they've, I don't know, for lack of better terms, get rid of some of this weirdness.
It's just not intuitive, You go and
Well, we talked about it. We talked about it. What we talked about last week was not results. It was standings.
Standings, right?
Standings is completely missing. And then y'all thought we were looking for results when y'all chatted about it over the weekend. But no, it's the standings that you simply can't get to.
Yep.
Is that
10
still the
points.
case?
Yeah, I think so. I can't find them. But I looked in there, I think, last night. I was looking up posted races, and like you said, I was trying to filter, and it didn't work how I expected it to, and I used a lot of different software with my work, and I used to be in software design, and it's not intuitive how they have it laid out at all. So, yeah, they have some work to do, I think.
Well, yeah, see, with the filter, you pick all your filters, and then there's an option right at the top, and I can't remember what that option is, but it's set as almost like a filter option, and if you don't select that, at least this is how I figured it out to make it work, none of your other filters will work, which is kind of redundant, because if you're going into the filters, you're turning them on, they might as well just work because you're turning them on for a reason. So I don't know, maybe a little overthought on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, I'll keep an open mind.
I'm in the beta right now. I'm looking at iRacing Series Open, and it's got 6 options at the top, but you can see the season results for races, but you still can't get to standings.
Soon.
I'll keep trying it. Once a week, I'll go in there and poke around. We'll see. Next up is Top 10 video, the iRacing Top 10 for August. And boy, this one was, I think the theme was probably 3-4 wide kind of thing.
Restrictor plate racing?
Yeah, something like that.
Very Daytona heavy.
It was, and there was a lot of close calls in those. There were some of them where he would drive through the wreck and clears the smoke. Drive through the smoke, you can make it. Yeah, which I love those kind of videos. Now, one thing I noticed, Drew Adamson posted in the forums after he put up this video, is he said he's going to change the format going forward. It's not going to be a top 10. He's going to get rid of the top 10 idea, and it's just going to be as many as he can fit in, because apparently he has more than 10, and the hardest part is trying to narrow it down to only 10. So he's going to change the format. He's going to give us a bunch of quick clips, all at, one after the other, like as many as he can fit in like a 3 or 4 minute video.
I think it's a good idea because you can get more in there and get more people exposed to what, if they keep telling like people's names and things like that and Twitch channels and things like all that, then you can, more exposure for people and what they've done in the sim too, right?
Exactly.
Anybody see the Homer Simpson car?
I missed that one.
It's a Porsche. It kind of was a cool. I think it was number 6, and it just caught my eye, the paint job.
Well, I think every week where there's a lot of restrictor plate races like we just had, or every month anyway, where we had like Daytona, you're going to get a lot of submissions because just those races always tend to be, really close or big crashes. Every once in a while somebody managed to wiggle their way through it. So I think these months with these restrictor plate races in the schedule are going to be really heavy with top 10 type of submissions. So I don't think once they go, once they have the submissions probably dwindle down a little bit, I would imagine.
Well, eventually, next month for September won't be as bad, but you'll have October's highlights will have Talladega, Roval, and all that in the same time, right?
Yeah, definitely Talladega is going to be this month.
Check number 6, right at the end of 6 at the 2:22 mark. The trucks are at the finish line here are 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 wide. But the way that they're stacked and staggered in there, I mean, it's an entire pack going for the win. It's crazy.
Well, and like I was saying, Brian, we're going from Talladega to the Roval after doing Las Vegas here this week. So there's a whole bunch of things that are going to be showing up in a lot of these races. Plus, we got a special event coming this weekend for this V8. So there's going to be a lot of different highlights going around with some of the other things. I'm not sure. Petit Le Mans coming up soon too.
And actually, number 1 wasn't a restrictor place race at all. It was the Indy cars at Indianapolis, with a really close finish. That was really, really cool to see. All right, guys. So apparently, we got another hot fix that came recently. It's 2020 Season 4 Hotfix 1, and we got the release notes for them. A couple fun things on there. We talked about a little bit with the UI that was added for the results, and in the Cup cars, it was interesting. The gas man was not filling the tanks all the way to full.
He could be interrupted and fail to empty his fuel can.
Yeah, exactly. So what interrupts the gas? I mean, if you leave early, I mean, I don't know how he gets interrupted. I wasn't sure.
I wonder if another car drives through your stall.
Improper training.
Runs into him.
They need to do what they do with the AI. They need to train them better.
I'm still having all kinds of weird stuff happen in the pits.
Well, would it be interrupted if it's 1 gas can to 2 gas cans? Like he doesn't switch to the second gas can?
That's a good point. Yeah, that could happen.
Well, it says fail to empty his fuel can, indicating he's already using it.
Well, that's just lack of training. It just sounds like a lack of training.
Maybe he's disgruntled. Didn't get his paycheck. Was a little light.
The McLaren, they fixed a deal with the McLaren wheels where you have to pick the wheels. There was some kind of thing if you loaded a setup with the other wheel, it let you start on the other wheel besides the one you qualified on. So I think they fixed that.
Doesn't look like they've gotten around to fixing the land rush starts on the Crandon Raceway yet. That's not listed on here. And they did some updates on the AI driving, their oval driving training. So in the Indy Pro 2000, USF 2000. But we, if you remember, we saw that video last week with the AI cars all piling up on the pace lap. So it looks like maybe they got a little bit of that fixed.
Overkill.
Overkill. Sounds like a decent band name. Or
That'll
maybe
never work.
or maybe a graphics card name. I don't know. What we're talking about is we got a Philip Morton on the forums explaining why you don't need the 3090 over the 3080. Essentially, it comes down to iRacing can only use up to 8 gigabytes of video memory. And the only difference between the 3080 and the 3090 is the memory. My only question would be, can that other gig of memory still be taken advantage of by the rest of the computer system? If that could affect any of the bottlenecking or not. But so that would be a question for him. But otherwise, go with the 3080 instead of the 3090. Save a little money.
And if you got the money, you might as well go to the 3090 and future-proof yourself for maybe down the road for updates.
But it's not just a little money. There's a big jump between the 3080 to the 3090 in price. Big jump.
What is it? It's like $1,000.
1,600, I think, for the 3090.
Yeah, and it's like $1,000 for the 3080, right?
Or it's $25,000 on eBay.
Right.
If
It's like 30 igloos.
if you're worried about future proofing with the 3090, are you like talking like 10 years down the road? Because I think it would probably take that long for iRacing to utilize that much.
Hey, Tony, some of us like to play on high settings.
Well, I think you could probably do that with the 3080, but
the 3080 is future proofing, guys. Really.
well,
Did anybody say that about the 2080?
I don't think the jump from the 1000, like the 1080i to the 2080s, was that big of a jump that it was, future
Less than a
proof than anything.
third.
But aren't the Titan ones still good enough even right now still?
I don't know. I think calling anything in technology future proof is being fairly unaware of the past.
well,
That's a good
yeah, I was
point.
gonna say, does iRacing even fully utilize a 1080? Like max, what we know it's CPU. That's what iRacing uses for the most part. You got a good CPU. I'm sure you can run everything max on a 1080.
Well, it depends on your displays too, because 1080 it's really pushing it on some of the VR headsets for sure.
Yeah, I saw an improvement when I jumped to the 2080 on the VR.
But it's all the bottleneck through the CPU, though. That's the bottleneck, and it's because of they use one core for the game to process it, not multi-core. And so your CPU has to be super fast to really take advantage of a good card like that. Because if you have a crappier CPU and you have some good card, it doesn't matter.
Though they have started to do some things to work around that. For example, the telemetry now runs on a different core. It's no longer running on the same core as the sim itself.
I was trying to save them.
Right. So let's talk briefly. I know we probably have it in another part of the show, but I've been sharing screenshots with the group of some of the prices we've seen on these cards, as high as $10,000. I mean, 5 digits.
No.
So,
Which is nuts.
Yeah, and a little later in the script we have a video from the guy who does his tech stuff, and he explains a little bit how those numbers get so inflated, and it's really not what you think it is. It's really not people buying it for that much. But I don't want to skip ahead too far, but I think some of that stuff is just manufactured rather than actual prices people are buying it for.
right. Good luck if you actually want one, though.
Yes, that is true. And that's another story we'll get to because when they launched this thing, it was an absolute mess.
Incoming update. David, you need to make that sound effect in the podcast here. But Tyler Hudson posted the super late model is getting an update here that's likely going to have any of the people that have been racing in the open series are going to have to change some of their setups because the changes include aero, tire, and an overall physics update. So hopefully everybody knows this and then before they race and fix their setups. But this was posted, was it yesterday? And to let us know on the update for it. So
It's exciting. That apparently this car has been needing some attention. I've kind of seen that in the forums, and it sounds like it's getting it. And
I thought it was I'm sorry, Mike. I thought it was kind of interesting that Tyler said on his post that this update barely missed the quarterly build. You know that something like this would normally be in, but they really wanted to get it out, so they kind of released it as a patch almost. But they really wanted to get it for that season 4 big dump, but didn't quite make the timeline, I guess.
they probably had a hiccup last minute, and it just caused it not to come out on time. But I'm glad that they still are putting out these updates and not, probably about a year or a couple of years ago, they just would hold it for another 13 weeks and then not put it in, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. They didn't want to hold it. They wanted to get it out there as soon as possible and not wait till the next build and 3 months later.
Every time I go into these posts and see them, and then you start scrolling and it's like, what about this car? What about that car? I hate the complaining about. Just enjoy what you get, okay? Like they're out doing an update. They don't have to release it. Everybody's always on what's the next. They're always asking more and more and more.
well, and then in 2020, they're not even able to scan anything, yet they've delivered tons of content this year. I mean, more than I think can be expected.
Well, the year in review is going to be crazy.
Yeah, I think some people are getting spoiled with how much content that they've been releasing. They just keep wanting more and more and more. But I think overall, though, iRacing's been doing a great job just keeping stuff current and bringing out new stuff that can keep people interested.
Tony, have you ever wondered how the team racing works?
Actually, no. I've never really wondered how that works, but for those that do want to know and want to try and figure it out on the new UI, iRacing posted up a little how-to video. Now, a little how-to video, I don't know, a 7.5-minute video is, I guess, a little bit more than a little. But just like all the other how-to videos on the new UI, they got one for team racing. I did a quick scan through. I wasn't going to sit there and watch 7 minutes of something that I typically don't participate in. But I mean, they do a good job. It's pretty well explained, and the editing on it is certainly visually appealing. But maybe they just need one of those to figure out how to get your results.
Well, David and I are gonna have to use that this weekend, aren't we, David?
Yep. I guess we'll jump on. Well, we'll talk more about that later. Maybe final thoughts or something.
But this video, yeah, like you said, it's linear. Like this is where you start. This is what you click, and it kind of walks you through it visually, and you can see the mouse and you can see where to click in the new UI. Why do they need a video like this? Because the way the UI is designed, I think it's almost necessary that you're going to have this video up alongside at least the first time you go through this to kind of make sure you're doing it the right way, or if you get lost and you know what to do next and that kind of thing.
Mike, I want to go at this another way with the way you're thinking about. The reason they're making this video is they've been sorely missed and needed because I don't know how many people are sick and tired of seeing in the forums page the questions of, I'm new to iRacing. How do I do this? How do I do that? Well, if you got these videos out there, it kind of could solve some of the stuff, or people could link the actual, instead of typing it out, they link this video and say, okay, here's how to solve it.
Right.
I think this is they've been really needing. We're 11 or 12 years into this sim. This is kind of like a long time to wait for it, but I think right now, whoever's doing the production value for this, they're doing really good. So that's why it's a lot nicer to have it nowadays. It's better late than never, I guess.
Yep. So next up, we got a tweet today from SimSeats, and Elliot Sadler scores himself 2 custom turnkey setups from SimSeats. And there's a picture they posted up of Elliot Sadler, and I think it's Garrett Maines, his teammate, is in the other one. But it's probably for his son. Elliot's son is what the other rig is for. But it's a nice looking setup, and boy, Elliot's styling now.
Wondering if that's what he's getting it ready for the, because now that they've completed the road to pro, he's got a couple drivers that moved on, right?
Right.
Well, I don't think that's what the rigs are for. But Elliot's been away from iRacing for a few weeks because his team, his Little League team, was actually doing really well in playoffs. And so he coaches that, and that's been taking a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's been fun racing with him in NIS when I've had a chance to kind of see how you stack up with a real NASCAR driver who, obviously has done it for a career and knows what he's doing. And he drives pretty darn well. I mean, he's up there leading laps usually and sometimes winning these things.
And he's real personable. There are some drivers that won't even talk to you hardly when they're on there. Some, Dale will say hi, but he mostly focuses on the races. AJ Allmendinger won't say a word, and Elliot will just have a conversation with you. It's real nice.
Yeah, regular kind of guy, right? Yeah, that has been a real nice touch this year in the NIS to be able to race with him. Okay, so now we'll go into podcast housekeeping notes. Just a reminder that we are on Amazon Music now, and you can get the podcast there as well as any other place you can get a podcast. In fact, I do challenge you to try to find a place that hosts podcasts that we're not on and let me know, and we will get there. Don't forget to email us at iracerslounge@gmail.com. Links for story ideas. We're happy to take any email, just a link. You don't have to explain anything. Don't forget we're in regular rotation over at the Performance Motorsports Network over there, a 24-hour motorsports streaming channel. And with that, Tony, let's talk fantasy.
Well, good old Bristol. That one's always a lot of fun to try and play the fantasy. I did okay this week. I certainly could have done a little bit. I could have done a little bit better. I was kind of on the fence about a couple of picks, and the picks I would, some of them went my way, the other ones not so much. But I guess I did good enough to be able to hang on to my lead. How'd you guys do this week? How'd you find things?
I almost had it all. Kyle couldn't pull off the win.
Yeah, I had Kyle for the win, and I also went with Toyota for the manufacturer points, and that just didn't work out for me either. But his second place scored me some really good points.
I had Chase to win the first one or first stage, and then I put Kyle in the second one, and then Kyle to win it. And I was like, and then Harvick started getting good near the end of the way, so it made me nervous. The way Kyle ran at the beginning of that race, I thought nobody was going to touch Kyle.
Yeah. Well, that was just it. I even thought, near the end, Kyle was catching Harvick and was on top of him, passed him a little bit, and Logano got in the way. Now, there's still a lot of laps left. If Kyle's car was good enough, he should have been able to catch Harvick again. That obviously didn't happen. And I specifically kept Harvick out of my lineup this week because I want to use him later on at tracks that are typically he's really, really good at.
Phoenix.
Yeah, well, this is it, right? Like, yeah, you want to keep him for Phoenix. I was actually pretty surprised at how fast and how good Harvick ran at Bristol. I usually keep him right out of my lineup at Bristol at any time, but after his showing this week, that's definitely going to make me think twice next year. And I might just throw him in there to see what happens. Got one more year with this package, so you know, a lot of what we're seeing this year will kind of hopefully pay dividends next year. Guess that'll depend with the if they bring back practice and qualifying and stuff like that. But so we'll just have to wait to see about that.
It'll be interesting to see this next 3 stages. You know, this is one of the more interesting rounds because Las Vegas is, you know, it's the mile and a half, you know, acts like a restrictor plate until the tires fall off, and then, or acts like a super speedway until the tires fall off, and then we go to Talladega, which is a complete wild card, and then you go to the Roval, which, you know, that's got to be even a real wild card too, right? Because, you know, one corner, you could have a guy leading, and he could go all the way back to like 30th place.
You mean like miss it at Heartburn Turn?
Tum 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 tum.
Well, you know, the way I've been playing like road courses and stuff is, you know, very similar to how I play the short tracks. I find a lot of the guys that are really good at short tracks, you know, show up at the road courses. The Roval, I don't know, it's such a different story though. That's going to be a fun one. Like Talladega, you know, that is just a roll of the dice, really. I mean, you know, you got your guys that
Ryan Blaney.
I don't know if you want to put any bets on Ryan Blaney this year.
He's won 3 of the last 4 restrictor plate races.
Didn't he win at the Roval?
And he won the Roval 2 years ago, or a year ago.
Yeah.
No, last year was Chase. The year before was Blaney.
That's right.
The way he's been running lately, you know, yes, he's done it in the past, but like he has just been, well, a hot pile of garbage lately. I kind of pains me to say that because I really like the guy, and you know, he's normally good for points, but man, I am so gun shy to bring him into the lineup.
And Brad had a bad run too.
Well, and you got to Brad and Joey are still moving on, right? So you wonder if the 21 and the 12 will help at Talladega to try and get them through to the next round, right?
Well, you know, like the 12 is definitely going to help him out for sure. But you know, you got to get to the end, and that's where it's at. You just gotta. It's like poker, you know. There's a bit of skill involved, and a lot of luck. But not a whole lot of shaking up with the standings this week. But I'll give a quick rundown of the top 10. TG1 Racing, myself, hanging on to first, and my lead is very slowly getting chipped away. So we'll see. If I can keep riding this out, I might be able to make it to the end. Well, we got Res Dog. He's nipping at my heels still, and he's doing a pretty good job. He's in second place. Smiling Ninja's in third. KBM is in fourth place, just in time. He's down in fifth place. He needs a bit of a rally to get back to the top. He's got a few races to do it. He's certainly well within range. You know, we're only talking, you know, the difference is only just 100, 200 points. and that really is nothing. I just they got to have a good race. I have a bad race, and I'm out of that top spot. But GI Jojo's in 6th place, Kerry Cial 7th, Laird Racing is in 8th, Jedi McFly is doing his best drowning impersonation. He's still in the top 10. He's in 9th. Team 207 rounds out the top 10. It's we're getting there. We're getting there, and we got Talladega coming up in this. I love watching it. I hate playing it, but it's going to be a lot of fun. It's great. So don't forget to get your picks in. I mean, you can't nip at my heels. You can't take over the top spot if you forget your picks. So get them in, and well, we'll see what happens.
All right, very good. With that, we're going to jump to hardware, software. Brian, tell us about this 3080 buying mess.
Okay, guys. So we talked about the 3080 being released. They had the launch last week, and well, it almost sold out before it was even available from the websites. And so guys were using bots to buy sometimes up to 48 cards at one shot before they were even available. So they basically use this bot system, and they get these bounce alerts when the thing's getting ready to come up, and it's a program that they have to pay for. I think it's $75 or something, and they get these bots created that let you buy these cards before they even get are available for your average customer to buy. So these were snatched up really quick, and obviously somebody buying 48 of them is planning on selling them for a profit. So that's kind of how that rollout went. It was I'm sure it made quite a few people upset, and really inflated the price through other markets like eBay and such forth.
I may be just a little bit legally ignorant, but this is basically illegal, isn't it?
It's been happening forever. The bots thing it's never going to go away. They've just had this problem with PlayStations and Xboxes when they just went live this week. So if it can be done, they're going to do it.
Yeah, but if you buy that many, you can be sued for reselling without a license. You're like, and so I don't know. I guess it's just hard to trace because it's online. But as far as I know, doing something along these lines, you can be arrested for, or at least deal with a lawsuit for not being licensed to be a reseller.
So one of the videos in part of this package is Jay's 2 cents, where he talked about this problem, and he was telling the solution is the manufacturer, NVIDIA. They need to make it harder for these bots to be able to do business. And he suggested a voice verification system. So like you place your order, and then the system has to make a phone call to you and do a voice verify or whatever, and then your order is confirmed.
That's a good point. Couldn't they even do like one of those image notifications, like when you go to a website and you got to click on the street
I'm not a
signs
robot.
or whatever? Yeah. Why couldn't they do something simple like that? That thing's all over the place.
It's a good point. Just some simple stuff like that. Some simple programming or a callback system or something. Because the manufacturer's just putting out a basic, checkout system, a web checkout system that these bots can obviously manipulate.
You wonder if they kind of secretly don't want to say it, but maybe they don't mind all this happening because it jacks up the demand for their product, jacks up the price.
Well, it sells them, right? That's the whole idea. They sell out.
Yeah, That's what I mean. Yeah, yeah. They sell them either way, but now they got all this extra excitement and panic going over these things, and it's just another way for them to increase time around or something like that. It's definitely. I would think that's definitely a possibility.
So why is the price jacked up on eBay? So these guys, before they even had their cards shipped to them, just because they had a confirmation, they were turning around and trying to resell it on eBay before they even have the card. But then there were people that were mad about it, and so they're going and putting basically fake bids on these eBay things and jack them up to skyrocket.
Well, that's one way to bat against it. If nobody buys them, then these people are stuck with it, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's really the way to do it. It's just take a deep breath, realize it's not the end of the world if you don't get it on launch day, and let these guys sit on this product for a while.
It'll eventually make its way down to where it's reasonable. They're not gonna be able to withstand that kind of, if they bought, like, say, would you say 48 or so,
Yeah, some of them. Yeah.
That's a lot of money, especially if they got the more expensive cards.
I don't think
Here's
they'll take a hit, though. They'll never take a hit.
Wow, they will if it's on credit card and they're paying interest on it until they finally get rid of it.
Well, yeah. But it was a good video by Jay's 2 cents about the 3080 and all the challenges with trying to buy one. And he was saying that they sold out, so they have an email alert that alerts you if it goes on sale. And he said that they were sold out before the email got delivered. Before the email can actually get to your inbox, it was already gone.
That's crazy. Here's another story that was on that.
Which one was that, Brian? I think we lost Brian. Well, with that, we're going to jump to Evan Pasoko. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, and thank you guys for waiting on me. Sorry about that.
Hey, no problem. We're happy to have you. Let's talk Coke Racing. We're going to shift gears to Coke Racing. Let's talk pre-race. We had a couple sponsor announcements. The first was Logan Clampett running Beans, Lucky Beans, and it got me thinking of the more you toot, that little song. The more you toot, the better you feel.
I think they're calling it the Bean Machine now, which is fun. And we've, I think, had an opportunity to talk kind of through the year about all the different sponsors and people involved in the series. And I know that Parker at the top of Burton Kligerman Esports is certainly on it. So it's cool to see another sponsor investing in eNASCAR. That's only good news.
Yeah, and another one, the Asus official gaming hardware of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola series. That's a new announcement as well.
Yeah, they've been a partner for a couple of weeks, but they have been an official partner. So not they've been an official hardware partner, and now they are the official. And I know that you guys were talking about the graphics cards a little bit earlier. Now I need to see if I can find a phone number for somebody at Asus and try to get help buying a 3080, since it's impossible to find them anywhere else. But yeah, it's super cool to have a technology partner like that involved.
Okay, very good. Let's jump to the race. Right off the bat, your coverage was a little bit different. We had Steve Letarte and Parker Kligerman joining you for the coverage, and I really enjoyed that. Mainly Steve Letarte. I mean, he brings a legitimacy to the broadcast where, to me, it just feels more like a NASCAR race. I don't know why, just because maybe I'm comfortable with him and I've heard him, call so many races, but it worked out really well.
Yeah, Steve is so good because obviously when I did the stuff on NBC last year, it was he and Parker involved in the broadcast, and we had some other guys. AJ was involved as well. But Steve is, he watches this series. Obviously, he's got Letarte Esports, but him and Parker both aren't guys who they have a team and they send out a tweet the day of the race wishing their drivers good luck and that's it. I mean, both these guys watch every single week. So I remember when we were in Charlotte earlier this year, Steve's walking in the hallway, he goes, "Hey Evan, how's it going?" And we immediately talk about the series, like specifics, this race, blah, 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 blah. So obviously the plan would have been for it to be us three on the NBCSN stuff, but it's super cool that even though we got moved back to online for these final 6 races, that we still get to use those guys, because I totally agree with you. I could listen to Steve talk, for hours and hours. So to have those drivers bring that experience of strategy and real life, and of course their knowledge of the series, I think makes our broadcasts incredible. They're both going to be with us through the rest of the year. I know Parker is busy next week, so we won't have him at Talladega. He's filming some stuff for TV, but we will have Steve, and then Parker will be back, and it's super pumped to have those guys for the final 5 weeks, because that's pretty damn cool.
Who's going to talk about his sponsors if he's gone?
Exactly, and I promised him that we were going to get the Bean Machine counter up, so I don't know who's going to get the sponsor plugs in. We'll have to maybe get Burton on the broadcast to talk about them.
Okay, and then going into the race, Keegan Leahy, Bobby Zielinski were locked in to the playoffs. Up front, Ryan Luza found his way to the top, and he's got control over everyone. Favorite second-place finisher in 2020, Garrett Lowe. Mike Conti down to third after starting on the pole. It was pack racing at Vegas. Clean and green up front. Mike Conti takes the lead from Ryan Luza after about 30 or so laps.
Yeah, and I've always loved Vegas, and again, I'll always say it's probably because I'm biased, because it's the hometown track, but it's one of my favorite intermediates, and, I mean, with this package, the drivers have mentioned it, and we saw it, I mean, it's full-on pack stuff, besides maybe 3-4 laps here and 3-4 laps there. Nobody ever really kind of checked out. But we did see, those guys up front. You talk about Luza leading. It was great to see him back up front after he's had a couple of struggles recently. Michael Conti. It was starting to look like, okay, we got 3-4 names that are going to have a real good opportunity to fight for the win. As we would see with some of the yellows later, it kind of shuffled things up. But for how tight they were, it seemed calm enough, at least in that first, quarter of the race or whatever it was.
Yeah, and then Steve Letarte hitting on all cylinders as these guys do green flag stops, and everyone's on different pit strategies. We have guys doing short stops. We have guys that are stopping at a more reasonable time. And then we have guys like Michael Gariglia trying to stretch it to halfway. He didn't make it. I think he was about 5 laps short.
Yeah, he tried his very best. And I just want to mention, you talk about Steve in the pit stops, a conversation that we had pre-race. Let me pull up the text so I can cite this properly. We were talking stats, because I always say I'm a stat nerd, and Steve was making me jealous because he texted me a picture of the stats that they get for the Cup Series races, and the amount of info they have is incredible, from pit stop time, pit lane time, leaders, lead changes, plus minus from the restart, plus minus from the start of the race, lap leaders. They have all this info live. And once he showed it to me, and we obviously showed him the timing that iRacing has, not to just rant about something that doesn't matter, but I just thought it was cool how much stats they get for NBC. And I think they're going to try to convince iRacing to get some of more of that kind of data stuff available to people who use like JRT and ATVO and other stuff for timing. So Steve's like me, stat nerds. We love that. And pit strategy was big tonight. It basically decided this one later on.
Ooh, that sounds awesome. I'd love to have those kind of stats. Let's keep moving. It was a caution finally at lap 70 with Graham Bolin. Just a bit of contact with the 88. Now, he may have spun himself out, just trying to stay off of him. I think he maybe was tight pushing up.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in traffic like this, obviously there's going to be a lot of dirty air. The car's going to get tight. And that sucks for Graham, of course, because, he had been running real well, and that's imperative for him as we get later in the year. But, at this point, then it's when the race changes. The first 70 laps very different from the second 70 because the tire limit did have a bit of a factor where, you probably would have wanted tires with the fall off. Parker was pretty good in assessing this, that it was about 1.8 seconds of fall off. Last year, you would have had guys coming in like every yellow, 10, 15 laps in. But because of what happens with the tire limits, where they only had 3 additional sets in the box, they had all already used 1 up until that point. And then when the leaders came back down and repitted, that was 2. So you had basically a little bit under half the race to go with only one set of tires and like half a dozen yellows to choose from. And that made things really fascinating from a strategy standpoint and really chaotic as well.
Yeah, let's go through that. 61 to go, back to green. It was Clampett, Ottinger, Kettle, Luza, Conti, Lowe, Shearburn, and Pack Racing again on the restart. Kettle takes the lead. Cattell, I should say, takes the lead, and it was 3 wide deeper in the pack. There were tons of close calls in that restart.
Yeah, we thought that it was just a matter of time, and there was a lot of them where, we thought there was going to be a wreck, and it did happen. It did eventually, kind of make a big mess, and then there were also times like that off of the restart where you get away with it, and it was, crazy on all the restarts, but especially at this point in the race, because you had guys up front, old tires, a couple of rows back, maybe 5-lap newer tires, even further back, 10, 15-lap newer tires. So the restarts were insane, and it basically looked like a preview for Talladega next week.
All right, we got a good replay of this next caution on the script. It says, caution with 55 to go is Michael Guest, smoke out the back, and then he got ran over. It was the big one at Vegas. And again, Steve Letarte, quick to jump on it and say, oh, wow, he just blew up. I saw the puff of smoke, and next thing you know, it's on.
Yeah, and it's funny because, you would think night race that the temps would be a little bit cooler, and this is where Parker's insight was great as well, is that obviously he's always talking with his drivers, very hands-on, and he knows the sim as well, is that, he kind of knows that all these teams, and this is where having Justin on pit road helped too, because he kind of hinted at this earlier in the broadcast when he said that these guys were really pushing it on tape and actually going down on the tape as opposed to going up, which is what you would expect as the race goes on. So that kind of planted the seeds of doubt, and it turns out he's the only one to actually lose the engine. But, when you're in the middle of 3 wide, it can be blinking red all you want. You can't really do anything. You just got to hope that it lasts until you can get some clean air, and in the case of Michael there, just didn't.
We have actually discovered, especially at the 1.5 mile tracks, that you actually almost have to go with less tape in cooler conditions because you're running faster.
Higher revs.
That checks out with what we saw, yeah.
Yeah, Christian Challoner was up and over. Bobby Zielinski, Ray Alfala heavily involved. A really hard hit for Alex McCullum and Santiago Terres.
Yeah, this is when it started to, obviously, after the Guest incident made a big mess, and then we we did it again, and it was big hits for some of those other guys, but it was kind of timely or untimely, if you would, hits for guys like Ray, who, with all the drivers in and around that bubble that struggled, we talked about Graham Boland getting involved in that incident. He actually picks up a spot through a chaotic night. A lot of those drivers towards that playoff bubble of the top 8 had problems. I think Ray could have really stood to benefit a lot more out of this race if he wasn't in that incident, and same could be said for about 2-3 other guys, I think, as well.
Yeah, big points implication. So it was a restart with 40 to go. It was Cook, Lyon, Mullis, Reynolds, Busa, Vincent. They were 3 and 4 wide, just like all the other restarts. Then another big wreck at lap 96. It was newer tires trying to come through the older tires, said Parker.
Yeah, and that's when you get to the cluster, if you will, right? Is these guys know, especially at that point in the race, if we're already 2 wide, then the guy in the fresh rubber is going to take it 3 wide. The next car is going to take it 4 wide, and we saw what happened when they tried to go 4 wide off into turn number 3. And yeah, that's a Talladega wreck. I keep saying Vegas was the preview of Talladega. We made this joke earlier in the year when we were going to Daytona, but that's probably one of the biggest intermediate track crashes I've seen in some time.
It really does remind me of the Talladega big one. And that's what I told our team, actually, after watching a race Tuesday. Going into Wednesday, the NIS race, I was expecting pack racing on the restarts like we're seeing in the Coke race, but we didn't see that in NIS like they were doing. So I don't know if it's just they're that much better or the setups are closer. I don't know.
Or they're just a little bit crazier. We'll see. Maybe, I know this is something that Parker and Steve had joked about, the fact that, it's the sim. So you can maybe stick a car 4 wide when a bit of fear would maybe make you think otherwise. in the real car. But I mean, there was a lot of incidents where somebody, moves up 2 feet and it causes a big wreck. And if that happened to me in a race, I'd be like, he just moved up a little bit. But obviously, the margin for error is so small here that these guys are confident in their ability to be able to do that. And obviously, everything's on the line because most of these big chaotic things are happening like 15th, 20th in the pack. There was a lot up front, especially late with that example of that incident. But all those mid-pack guys, they're not going to back off because they're trying to stay in the series as well. So, if it's 4 wide, I can say, I don't want to wreck the car. I'm going to back out. I lose 3 spots, so you're almost forced to get into it. And, it makes for thrilling racing. I'm sure that everybody's seen it and enjoyed it.
Yeah, this next segment was really fun to watch. 37 to go, restart. Mullis, Cattell, Ottinger, Lowe, Cook, Conti, Sherburne, Reynolds. A big pack up front. Again, side by side, 3 wide. About 30 to go. Nathan Lyon, man, he made some aggressive blocks to keep the lead.
Yeah, all the way to the apron, and I think to below the white line maybe once or twice. He knew that that was what he needed to get the job done, and there was a point there, I forget what the exact order was, but we had 3 guys running up front all looking for a first career win, and I thought there was a pretty good chance that it was going to happen at least with 30 to go.
And then through that segment, Lyon kind of gets out to the outside, I think it was, and caution as he gets the wall hard. He got clipped by the 21 actually from behind. And then Steve Sheehan plows in later really hard.
Yeah, we saw a lot of those kind of secondary incidents, which, you don't normally see at the intermediate tracks. We saw it like once or twice at NASCAR at Atlanta a couple of years back where you get kind of huge messes. I think Kentucky or Kansas was another one. But I don't know if that's as much as the track being blocked or drivers, having been in an earlier accident, dropping back, then they see another wreck, and the devil on their left shoulder says, hey, if you stay in it, you might get a spot or 2 to the yellow, and maybe some guys overdriving.
Yeah, and then after that next restart, again, some aggressive blocking up front, but tires were starting to wear, and they started to, line up, and it wasn't as side-by-side, and get spread out a little bit. It was about 15 to go. It was Mullis, Diaz. Wow, Diaz having a great run. Reynolds, Ottinger, Cattell, Conti, Garigula, Cook, Alfala, and Gorlinski. And then 5 to go, it was Mullis up front he actually built up a nice 0.8 gap over Diaz and Ottinger, who got by Reynolds, and then Conti, then Cattell. But at the end, Jimmy Mullis gets it.
He did, and it wasn't that 8/10 at the end. He was checking out. That was probably the biggest lead that we had seen all night, and then kind of got reeled in at a little bit at the end. But yeah, that's huge for Jimmy Mullis. He gains 3 spots in the points, and he's right on the doorstep as we head to the regular season finale. So he did his job.
Boy, he moves him to P9 right below the cut line. And then Ray Alfala with his wreck, he's running P8 just above it.
Yeah, I think the margin is like 14 points if I'm looking at it correctly. And I think that you can lose that many spots in one wreck at Talladega. And we talked about this at the end, do you overthink it going into Dega? Because there is no win and you're in. So you can't kind of, go crazy. You do have to be smart, but what if you overthink it, hang back, and then the race doesn't have a yellow, and you don't even give yourself a chance. So I'll be fascinated to see how this works out. And the coolest thing is if we had this Talladega race last year, I wouldn't have a damn clue what the points are. I would try to do the math in my head. That doesn't normally end well. We have that live points now, so it's going to be exactly like the drama that we saw a couple of weeks back with the Cup Series when the playoffs were coming up in that finale at Daytona. We're going to have live points. You're going to see that thing shuffle every single lap. I think it's super cool that we got that done in time, and I think that it's going to be a fantastic race. Obviously, if you end up above the cut line when it's done, you're going to say, hey, Talladega was a great idea. If any of those top 8 drivers drop out, I think it'll be safe to say they won't be very happy with how it went down.
Yep, and I think, going into the next race, probably the top 5 in points are safe. but 6th and 7th, Ryan Michaeluza, Logan Clampett, they're not too far above Ray Alfala in points. They're probably in the danger zone too.
Yeah, they are, and that's, you know, I mean, 45 is the number that we've been going with. You can get 45 points in a race. Realistically, we have 38 cars starting races now, so it's closer to 43, which is a broader window than I think is realistic. If I'm looking at the points, I think that Luza is probably safe, you know, because he's 30-ish points up on 9th. But Clampett and Alfala, if they wreck, they're sweating. If you just finish, you know, top 10 in that race, around 10th, you're fine. Ray just needs a top 10. Logan just needs a top 15, you're fine. But if those guys get in wrecks, Bolin, Davies, Vincent, and Shearburn is where I would draw the line, because then you're even stretching with Shearburn because he's nearly 30 points out as well. You got to win it. I know the win doesn't get you in, but it gets you at least a bonus point for leading a lap, 3 bonus points for winning the race, and then, of course, you can try to get another one for leading the most laps with those 5 available. It could come down to bonus points.
Wow, it's going to be interesting for sure. I'm excited to see it, and glad we don't have to wait 2 weeks. It's just next week, right?
Yeah, we're right back at it, you know, in 1 week's time, which is super cool because obviously we don't have to wait. And I guess that means I'll be talking to you guys a lot more. You know, it's going to be fun. Same time as always, 9 Eastern, streaming at enascar.com as we head to virtual Talladega. And then they do give us a week off before the playoffs, kind of get these guys a chance to get their heads straight, maybe at least on our end, probably do a lot of promotional stuff and get content built up for it. And then on October the 13th, we go racing for 4 straight weeks. So when the playoffs start, they're going to last less than a month as we're that much closer, guys, to crowning our 2020 champ.
All right. Well, it's been a great race. I enjoyed it this week for sure. Thanks, Evan, for stopping by and talking Coke racing with us, and look forward to next week.
Yep, absolutely. We'll talk to you guys then.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so let's switch gears back to hardware. Greg, where did we leave off?
I think we just got a video here. I'm just trying to get down to it here. Of the 3080 in, you know, compared up against a 27 or RTX 2070. Just bringing up the video here. It said put on by
Rich Del Maggio.
Rich Del Maggio. Did you watch this video, Mike? I haven't got completely through it.
I did. I mean, he got the card and he you know, he fired up the iRacing and showed us what it looked like. But I mean, we're kind of looking at it through a camera, so it's, you know, you can't really tell.
Yeah, but he kind of went over the frame rate. That's what he was really going over, the frame rate bump that he got when he switched to the new card, and it was pretty significant. I mean, I thought when he had the 2070 on there, it was around like 80 frames per second, and he was getting close to 200 when he put in the new 3080.
Yeah, you're kind of breaking up there, Brian. But yeah, that's what he just kept saying. Wow, wow. He was just like he was speechless, looking at the FPS as he set in the car. It was just like this huge number, and he shows his graphic settings where he has everything check marked, and yeah, he's getting some killer frames per second.
You can have 200 frames per second. It doesn't really make a difference from 100 frames per second. Like your eye only sees what it sees.
Right. It's kind of like what I was saying before. These cards are probably overkill.
Well, it depends on like even like David was saying, the more and more stuff you run, it's, you know, it's just something you got to you can get to have for your PC, because iRacing, a lot of things that people run too are not just iRacing, right? Like, you know, if you even look at it, the new flight simulators and stuff like that, some of them are really graphics intense. Some of the new games are graphics intense. But if you're just iRacing, some of these graphics cards will be overkill.
Yep. Well, thanks to Rich Del Maggio for trying it out and let us know what he thinks.
Looks like we have another batch. Tony?
Another batch, eh?
Batch of cookies?
How about two more
Lost.
batches?
Okay, we'll go with 2 more batches. Chris Smith, he reminded everyone that there will be just 2 more batches left to be produced of the Proto Simtech P2 pedals before closing up shop. Well, no kidding.
The Proto
So-
Simtech.
These look very familiar. I'm sure we've covered these in the past.
Oh yeah. I think they're
but-
$450 by memory. $450.
Yeah, well, this sucks. You never want to hear, companies, no matter how big or small, close up, especially if they're producing decent stuff. But yeah, if you guys want to get some Proto Simtech pedals, this is your last chance. So jump on over protosimtech.com. PROTOSIMTECH.com.
$480 US plus shipping. It currently says sold out. But yeah, this guy, he has actually said he was closing shop before and said it was the last chance. And then he continued on because of the demand. And now he's continuing. I think he had said last time he was going to stop. And now he said, well, we're going to do 2 more times. So he keeps extending it. Let's keep him in business, guys. Go buy his pedals. They look like pretty good pedals, too, for the price.
Yeah, now I don't have any of this stuff opened up. Are these a hydraulic or load cell?
They're not hydraulic. They're load cell.
Okay. Well, still, I mean that price point is perfect. Like the pedals look nice. They look good. They look sturdy, and under $500. To me, I think that seems like a pretty good deal.
And there's a lot of people that have bought these that are really happy with them. There's a lot of good feedback in the forums on these pedals, and that's why we've talked about them so many times. Next up, I'm going to jump to a price release for the Sim Experience G-Belt. Bernie Villers from Sim Experience spilled the beans on the forums regarding the price of the G-Belt and says it will be priced at $999. What do you think?
I'm assuming that's just the one for the actual GC.
Well, the G Seat is $3,000, and so this would be an extra $1,000 if you want the package.
There's a universal one for anybody who wants to use it on the regular system. Yeah. I
Oh,
don't think that's the same. I don't know if price is any better or worse or what.
I think Brian needs a reset.
yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, Brian. Yeah, there is a universal seat mount they have here on their website, but the prices aren't listed yet. He just listed the price in the forum, so. I mean, the seatbelt tensioning thing is a dream of mine. I always want the seatbelts, and I think I want this to go with it. But maybe on a stationary chair, not the G seat.
Well, it's kind of complementary to the G seat, right? Because the G seat pushes on your back, and then this gives you the other direction.
Right, pulls you into the G seat, right?
Mm-hmm. So for when it would probably obviously it would tighten up when you're braking.
I'd love to just try it, see how it works.
I really am tempted to buy this, but I want to get to a convention or something, or just get an opportunity to test it and see if I really like it before I drop 4K.
Oh, that seems like something you should just jump into, David. We're good at spending your money.
Not that good.
Alright, well, if you don't want the seat, how about a half a car?
This one's crazy. This is a
It's
Ford GT1, I think. Ford GT. I'm sorry.
Well, it's the Ford GT 40.
It's a
I
Porsche
guess,
917.
oh, is it
sorry,
a
yeah,
Porsche?
that's right. Sorry, it's a Porsche. Yeah, you're right.
And it's like the front half of the car, like from the seat forward. The bodywork, the wheels, the windshield, the cockpit, everything. It looks like a real race car. Now the back half's cut off of it. It's put on some kind of motion system, and he's got big triple monitors out in front of the car.
I would love to get one of these. This thing would be so much fun just to sit in. Like, could you imagine having this in your house and some people come over and just seeing this sitting in your house?
It's amazing. But you'd have to crawl into it just like a real race car. I mean, the immersion level is got to be insane.
You better hope that he's got some ventilation in there to, some way to circulate air in there, because that would be very, very hot.
It would be quite a bit of a crawl. It wouldn't be the same kind of crawl because sports cars, the doors actually open.
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, that car does not have very much room to begin with if it's an actual kind of design the same the way that car is.
It's also a lot higher off the ground than the car would actually be.
That was true. Imagine if it was on the ground and somebody had to get in it, because it'd be like at your waist.
So this is put out by ProSimU.com, the letter U. And we've talked about their stuff before, but this is something pretty unique. I don't think they sell this on their website. This was on their Instagram.
So this next one, I actually really kind of wish we had Bobby around because he's our resident 80/20 expert. Carolina SimWorks has put out the final drawing of their M1 chassis, which is going into full production pretty soon.
It's an interesting design, the pedal tray.
Yeah, it's definitely just that's the pedal tray if you want to go inverted for sure. You don't need that whole stack if you're not going inverted.
Right. If you're not doing inverted, it's like way overkill, right?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they probably have a different option for the non-inverted. Or if you buy the Fanatec inverts, don't they have their own mount as well that you just attach to the 80/20?
Yeah, it's all one way. It's on its own.
So it would just really depend on if you needed that particular piece or not. And it's 80/20, so it's pretty easy to customize those orders. You don't have to get stuck with exactly the same option.
Is it just me, or do all these 80/20 rigs look alike? Pretty much, they're pretty much the same.
Well, they're rectangular designs because it's rectangular equipment.
All right, so Carolina SimWorks getting on the 80/20 bandwagon. If you recall, they only use sheet metal or like a thin metal. I don't know. I don't think I should call it sheet metal, but they usually do a stationary metal cockpit that's kind of a thin flat metal, and now he's working on 80/20.
So, on to, I guess, another aftermarket direct drive for the Podium Series adapter. For the, I guess it's they're calling it a Z-Ring solution. And I guess it's so you can have other things hooked up rather than just the Fanatec products to it, right?
Well, it's just a better quick release system. So, as you remember, I had a problem with my wheel, and I can't get it off the base. It's stuck. And doing some research, Steve Llewellyn, our teammate, found this for me, and he said this is the solution. If you buy this, this potentially could fix it because it basically is a better quick release system. And this is actually something you can print up on a 3D printer. And apparently his wife has access to a 3D printer, and Steve said he was going to print me one up. So more to come about this particular device. I might be putting this on my wheel if everything works out.
That's
Yeah,
if you
okay.
can get the rim off.
That's right.
without breaking it. But it's interesting to is this seem to be a problem with these these direct drives if you don't get it off?
Well, apparently, if somebody's dreamed up a product to fix the problem. Well, it says here the Z ring increases stability of your Fanatic rim loaded on the Fanatic Podium DD1 or DD2 without the need to use the locking screw, which is much more convenient when you have more than one wheel and want to change quickly.
Well, I never used the locking screw.
Yeah, me neither.
I just tighten. Unless they're talking about they're not talking about the big, large nut that goes around the back that you
No,
tighten up and loosen
there's a
up.
screw hole you're supposed to screw a screw into.
Okay, I think that's only for certain wheels.
Yeah, I
Rebels.
think you're right.
Rebels.
I think you're right, Tony. It's only certain wheels, I think. Or David, sorry.
Yeah, I just tighten the large bolt and, but I'm switching rims every day as well.
So I'm anxious to try it. Steve's going to mail me this thing when it gets printed, and we'll see what happens. If I can get the wheel off, we'll see. But ever since I got it reseated, I haven't had a problem, so I'm probably okay leaving it as is.
If memory serves, I even remember reading in the manual somewhere that you only need that for certain wheels.
Or if you
What's
want
the
a
manual?
permanent install, right?
No, I think it has to do with with certain rims need it, certain rims don't.
Oh.
I
Well,
never really noticed all that play in the wheel, though.
I was gonna say, I think the rims that you're talking about, David, would be like my McLaren rim and the P1 rims. They would need those.
Do you have to put it in when you put in your McLaren?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. The F1 and the Porsche oval, round rim that I use doesn't require it.
Yeah, because my McLaren and the P1 rim that I have, they don't have quick releases on them. But yeah, they're the oval with the Xbox hub has a quick release. You can buy a quick release for the McLaren. I just never did. I think the new McLaren rims, if you buy them now, they come with the quick release.
So if you were to buy something like, a TSW custom wheel, you might need one of these.
Take a drink.
Tony, you want to tell us about that TSW custom wheel?
Actually, I would love to. Stephen Kiefer posted on the forums that he had a custom wheel built by Thomas Super Wheel. And he just wanted to let people know that it has... I should really look at this stuff before I start reading about it. It has levers behind the wheel for brake and throttle. It is a real high-quality unit, but no force feedback, although it seems to feel a bit like it due to increasing resistance. So it must be like a bungee cord spring type system, bring it back to center. It says it's based on their easy wheel, but they only got one guy building them he builds them one at a time. It's a bit of a wait for them, and apparently they have a lot of options. Someone bail me out here. I am totally blowing this subject.
So it's
I
Thomas.
didn't even know Thomas Super Wheel was still around. They've been back since the days of NASCAR racing 2003. That was like the big deal, because I think Junior had one when he was racing 2003 season. But
Yeah.
I didn't even know they were around still.
We were just talking about these guys last week. Now that I pulled up their website and I see what's going on there,
We
this-
covered this last week.
these are the guys that charge a crap load of money for some really basic old school stuff. But I'm sure you could run over this stuff with a tank and it ain't gonna hurt it. They do look solid, but yeah, they're just a little behind the times in technology.
Ooh, it's got 720-degree steering.
I went through and picked all the options I'd want. $985. I mean, you can get a direct drive for that.
Do you think you could get this wheel installed in that, or to come with that Aston Martin setup?
All right, let's keep moving. We got the Heiskenveld Sim pedals are now shipping from Sim Experience. Bernie Vellers let everyone know in the forums that Sim Experience is now selling Heiskenveld Sim pedals. They will ship from their U.S. based warehouse. So it's pretty cool to have a U.S. Source for these pedals that normally you could only get if you ship from Europe. So well-known pedals. A lot of people like the Heiskenveld Sprints, as they call them, and they have the Heiskenveld Ultimates.
Oh, this next one has got me, Mike. I know, Brian, it's under yours, but this Bobby Jonas should be covering this next SimSeed because he always has his little boy racing. This setup's kind of cool that someone's posted here on the Facebook Track Time Entertainment Facebook page.
Yeah.
And it's-
Yeah, go ahead, Greg. You want to take it? Go ahead.
It's basically a mini 80/20 rig with a baby car seat attached to it with is that the Thrustmaster setup there? I think that's the Thrustmaster with Fanatec. I think those are Fanatec pedals, but it's a Thrustmaster rim. And the best part is at least he's going with a Recaro kids seat. But that's awesome. I think I'm going to send this picture to my wife. And there's another picture in it later on with the screen actually attached to it. So this is really hardcore. And I think I'm going to send this to my wife and see what she thinks for the daughter. If this is something for the daughter to get into my sim with.
It looks like it's built for like a 5 or a 6-year-old, perhaps, because of the car seat. But yeah, it's like a miniature rig for the little kid.
It's awesome.
Got a 5-point harness.
But of course.
I sent it to Bobby.
Well, if we're talking about 5-point harnesses, do you have to put it backwards in the back seat or forwards?
Oh yeah, that's true. But if they're at 5 years old or whatever, it has to be forward, right?
I don't know. I don't have kids.
This next one blows me away.
Yeah, this one's not for kids, for sure. We've got a hyper-realistic 3-direction of field motion simulator. And it's got that 3-direction triangular, which really gives you a lot of different motions. So it can go every direction, including your lateral slip. Got a nice little promo video here showing several different racing sims as well as a flight sim. The only thing that doesn't make sense on the video is why when you're showing off your rig would you zoom in and just show the sim? They do that a few times, but it still looks like a nice rig. The only concern I might see is just how adjustable it is because it's not. I don't see very many. I don't see whether I can't tell actually whether or not there's a whole lot of adjustability in leg length and steering wheel angle and such.
It says starting at 20,000 euro.
The thing kind of reminds me of what are those 3-wheeled motorcycles called? Like the cockpit for those things. It kind of reminds me of that. The way that you're in it, but anyways, it's such an interesting design. Maybe actually more like maybe a snowmobile type front end on it.
Well, the way it looks is it's like the entire cockpit is sitting on a central pivot point that's attached to a base, which makes it easy to move about for motion. And so it's got that pivot point kind of in the center, but then the cockpit itself, the part that's underneath the pedals kind of comes up and around, and that's where your wheel hooks to. And it's got this slope to it that kind of makes it look like, I don't know, maybe the front of a car or something. It's a very unique design.
So see, this right here is what money, the good money. Yeah, it's a little expensive, but obviously it's designed to be, really good. But this is like talking last week about paying for a name brand something for a sim and not getting what you pay for. At least this one offers you something to it.
Right, it's 20,000 and you get motion. That last one was what, 70,000? It was just static cockpit.
I did spot another disadvantage. Doesn't really look like you can attach the monitors.
So it's like a VR only.
VR only,
Yeah,
or I guess you really have to set up the visit. If you look at his monitors, you can actually see it looks like it's set. I don't know. The settings are set to where you actually see the car pitch and roll if it hits something, since the monitors can't pitch and roll. So you might be able to compensate that way.
Yeah, I love that it has belts built into it, seat belts. Now this is from Portugal. This is msim.eu.com.
That's definitely, that would be something you'd bookmark for down the road if you had some money. That's something to start off with if you want to go motion type thing, if it's something you're going to fully motion to build right out of the box.
I'd be curious how strong that connection is from the base to the cockpit. I'm not sure how much is there. You can't really see it, but
The pivot point.
It's pretty narrow. Yeah, it's pretty narrow. But I don't know what's underneath all the plastic or whatever that's made out of.
The other thing I noticed in the second video on their website is they have their own wheelbase. It's MSim wheelbase. It looks like it doesn't look like it's Fanatec or something else.
Oh, what a segue. Fanatec, eh? Let's go move on to... Now, looking at this, obviously, it's just a rebranding of one of their older products. But the reason we have it brought up, Sim Racing Garage did... I guess he did his overview and review on it. But it's the new Fanatec World Rally Championship rim, their Xbox rim, but it's kind of just basically a redone version of their P1 rim, and it's got a different graphic on it, some different colored stuff, different stitching and different paddle colors, but it's actually a really nice rim if you want a choice of a different looking one for if you're looking for something different than the basic black P1s that are the more cheaper rims in the Fanatec line.
It does tout about a new quick release system that's a new design, and then they have interchangeable parts where you can switch out the buttons to have different color buttons and different color shifter paddles as well.
Yeah, so it's obviously a little bit more of an upgrade on their normal P1. It's kind of just a I would call it like a version 2.
I mean, I would look at this as a NASCAR wheel. This would be a good NASCAR wheel. The P1 rim is not a very big rim. Like if it's the same size, it looks like it's the same size as my P1 rim. I find it good for rally racing, which is obviously this one's promoting. It's more of a quick adjusting wheel where you can flick it around quickly rather than an oval rim. It's not as wide diameter, right?
No, I think it's a 13 or a 12
I'm running
inch rim.
15, yeah.
Yeah, I run the 13 Porsche for ovals, but I've got a real small frame, so I don't think I notice it as much. Some real racers run that size rim as well. Some of the smaller ones.
I know David. I know Mike and I run the oval rim. Brian, I don't know if you run an oval rim, but I find that the bigger rim has really changed the oval racing for me compared to because I had one about the same size as your Porsche one when I first started racing on the ovals with the Fanatic stuff.
I actually don't know if I could actually. 13
Then it's perfect for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, Barry put out another video testing the Motion House 4UN motion system, which I don't know a lot about yet, but he just put out a short video of him testing. It's not his normal video. It's just him in the car driving it, and it's amazing when he's in the dirt truck how much motion this thing moves him around. I mean, it's a pretty cool looking motion rig. It's basically a D box on 80/20, and but boy, it's got quite some range to it, I guess is what you would say. So more to come about that.
Yeah, I think those were the 150 millimeter travels, which is like one of the longer travels for those actuator types.
Yeah, you can see how much it's throwing him about. So I'll need to look up this company and get the pricing and stuff, but I'm kind of waiting for Barry to put out his main video, and then we'll take a closer look at it. But wow, I love watching these.
They're I did look at the pricing on those, Mike. They're running around $5,000.
Not bad. That's without the D-box, though. I mean, without the 80/20 rig.
Correct. That's just the actuators.
Just the actuators, yeah.
And the controller and all that stuff.
I still think that's the way to go, man. Get you 80/20 to start. Then later, yeah, you can just pull the trigger and buy something like this, and man, you're in business.
Yeah, so like you were saying, Mike, this isn't his full review like he normally does. This is just some scenes of him testing it out. I'm sure he'll come out soon with, his 2-hour-long video of it.
Okay, and then Brian, this last hardware story reminded me of the Aston Martin thing from last week.
Yeah, this is a classic car sim rig. It's a TCCT has worked with Racing Unleashed, and they've converted a state-of-the-art high-end simulator technology by using race drivers for training purposes into a unique classic car driver experience. So it's a rig, but the chassis looks like an old, classic coupe style race car. With the leather wrapped wheels, the 3-spoke design wheels, the leather on the shifters, leather seats. It's really cool looking. But I didn't see the price yet. I don't know if they've put that out yet, though.
Yeah, coming in 2021, it says. But it's beautiful. I mean, like you said, they make the interior look like the interior of a 1930 Mercedes or whatever it is, or the Ferrari, and they have a nice blue and a nice red, but it's just like I don't know, it almost looks like a toboggan kind of sled frame. It's like a metal frame, and they have actual bodywork, over it, and then a triple monitor stand, that it kind of sits underneath. And like you said, the classic wheel that's made out of wood, and so forth.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what this thing's going to go for. It doesn't look like it's a motion or anything like that, but
E-Classic
it's a beautiful,
wherever
looking,
TCCT E-Classic Club members can use of E-Classic Wilson yesteryear.
When you watch the video, they kind of portray it as, okay, this is something to put in a gallery of art, it's like a centerpiece. And then they talk about it's a club where you can race other people in these vintage cars online. And it doesn't say if they're using iRacing or what platform they're using, but it indicates that there's more to it than just buying the cockpit. Like you can race in this league and so forth.
Sounds very country clubbish.
Yeah. Okay, and with that, we're going to skip out of hardware and head over to results and talk about that. But first, don't forget the results are sponsored by the Ucora 2020 Throwback Indie Series. And let's see what they did this week.
They weren't at a track last week. It was the Legends that ran.
Okay, and so with that, we'll go into results. Let's finish up Bristol. Friday Open, Greg, you were wrecked out first caution.
Yeah, it was just not good. Friday, I just gave up real quick. I was actually, that was the one I was wrecked first turn 3 in the first lap, and it's I'm still fuming from it. The guy that got loose in front of me is a known wrecker in the division, and it's just, anyways, it is what it is, and I moved on, and Sunday was the better result.
Okay, and then I ran Friday Open P2. Oh, holy cow. I ran top 3 to top 6, basically all night, except for the long runs, and then I would fade pretty hard. Short runs at the end of the race, though, got me back up to second. That final restart, the green-white checker, I was second, but it wasn't enough to win. He had a good start, and there was just no catching him. But, man, that felt good to have a good P2. And then, David, how about a P3 Sunday morning in top split?
Yeah, I think this makes my best finish in top split. I think it was a 5. Bristol's a good track for me. Add to that, we had a really good set, and I was just almost in place to win. I was just hanging on to the tail of the leaders at the end, hoping they would wreck each other, but they didn't. They kept it clean.
All right, well done. And then Brian, P1. Well done. You got the win.
No, I didn't.
Oh, that's what it says.
Yeah, no, that was from a couple weeks ago when I did that Daytona.
Oh.
Script manager might have messed up there.
Okay, there you go. How about you, Greg?
Way to hit him down, David.
And then, Greg, you also got a P3.
Yeah, this was a race of who was on tires at the right time, and it was back and forth. So, one run I'd be up front and, stay out on all tires, and then a whole bunch of guys behind me would pit, and then they'd fly by you for a bit. Then you get another caution, you'd pit, and it's just back and forth. Like, I swear I passed probably one of the same guys, like, I want to say a minimum of 20 times I passed them. And it's just back and forth all over the track, and the new tire strategy really throws, like, an event like Bristol, the track, it lends itself to that type of racing, because there is a fall off eventually with the tires where you can notice a difference when you go down pit road. You can go from the back of the pack to the front if you got new tires compared to the rest of the field. But it was a fun race. I luckily was able to get a P3. I probably had a better finish in me if I wouldn't have got a little bit of damage from somebody that didn't get into the corner properly underneath me and kind of shoved me up as a wall. But it was I'll take the P3 after the last couple weeks I've had.
I think Bristol was so fun for us this week because of the set. Man, the set was awesome. I was rolling the top. I mean, there were people digging on the bottom, but man, I was quick up top, especially through the center. I was always catching them through the center. I was always moving forward, except for on those long runs. But really happy with my P2. All right, let's move to Vegas. Wednesday Open. David, you got the P20 wrecked late.
Yeah, we're close on this set. Not quite completely there, but we made a lot of improvements on it. And it does come down to the tire, who's got the fresh tires game as well. I was running, I think, 10th or 11th, and had a guy that was just a little starting to build a history of me as over-aggressive, though he did apologize. It's the second time in about 3 weeks he's taken me out. Knocked me down to P20, but don't feel terrible because I at least know I was running well. It's a lot less frustrating feeling if you are running well.
Okay, and I ran and got P4, which I was ecstatic about because I was junk the first run. No cautions. We're going to green flag stops. I ran it almost out of fuel and had faded from the top 10 to 34th in that first run. I actually got a couple of cautions after that to get back on the lead lap. It worked out. And just suddenly, made my way forward with all the cautions and wrecks, and I was just missing them. And so I somehow got a P4. I have mixed feelings about that set. It depends on how you drive it, but it's just tight for me. Tom Dreiling ran. He got P29, which is different than because he ran up front all of the race. Was leading laps too. After a late caution, a car in front of him had blown up. Must have had too much tape, and he was crashed out.
Tony Rochette got the P5. He got the pole in this run. It was walled and slammed and wrecked early, but was still competitive and had to finish the race for about the last 30 laps with 16X. He said he should have taken his luck down the road to South Point Casino.
I was calling him Mr. 16X. Because one more, and then you got that drive-through, right?
Yeah, even an off track, and he would have had to pass through it. And then looks like you got to run today, Mike.
Yeah, I ran today P16. Wow, I started near the front. I used a qualifying set, but started fading after about 13 laps. It was like I hit a wall after 13 laps, and the tires just fell off. And I fell to the rear of the field quickly. Green flag stops had me lose a lap, and then I was the first caution on lap 88. It was just super tight, and I just couldn't keep it out of the wall, and at some point it just went straight to the wall, and I hit it. Took a guy out. It made me mad because I didn't want to, get other people involved, but brought it home. I was P22 on the white flag, but the guys wrecked on the backstretch, the front pack, and that got me up to 16th in one lap. So I think Friday night I want to try a different set, just because twice now I've had that problem where I just fall to the rear on the first run.
We'll have something for then. Don't worry about it. We'll have something for then.
All right, cool. I'm glad to hear that. Let's talk official racing next. I ran the sprint car, and told everybody I ran away with my tail between my legs because I wrecked out first. I think it was 8 laps in. It was the sprint car at USA. I actually practiced on Monday night about 30 minutes and ran a lot of laps. And I ran consistently 19.1, 19.2s, all night during that practice. But regardless, during the race, I barely touched the wall on lap 8. And with these cars, you're just killed. And I did get it repaired, got back out there, and wrecked again about 20 laps later and just decided to bow out. So even though I like that car, it's not fun with my iRating. I just can't finish these races. Next was the Legends. It was Martinsville, and boy, I couldn't turn it. You get down to the center of the corner and you just have to stop the dang thing and turn it left and then go. But regardless, I got a P11, I think, out of 18 starters. That's going to be one and done because I'm just not comfortable with the new package they have in that car at Martinsville. I do recall last season at Martinsville, I actually liked it and ran pretty well, but with the changes they've made, it's not suiting me. What else we got? League and hosted. Brian, how about Iowa at OBRL, ARCA?
Yeah, so Monday night was the ARCA series at Iowa. I got a P5. I actually started on the pole, which was I was pretty shocked by, but hey, I'll take it. So we had an early wreck, like on lap 2, and then it went green the rest of the race, 150 laps race, so probably 145 were green. Let me ask you guys what you think about this. So I was running for third. There was a group of 3 of us running for third place, and we were all right on top of each other. The laps were winding down, like 5 laps to go, and we were getting inside each other, and then maybe not passing. And then a faster car comes up from behind us. I was in 5th at that point. He obviously had much newer tires than us, and he started mixing it up with me and like kind of take away my corner exit. Like we'd be side by side. I was low and I couldn't get up to the corner, to the wall on the exit, and it was slowing me up a little bit. I kind of lost contact with 3rd and 4th place, and so that's where I finished, was 5th. And after the race was over, I checked it out. The guy was 33 laps down. So we had 3 cars running for a podium finish, and a 33 lap car down kind of got in the mix and kind of messed it up a little for me.
Well, you got to be aware that the end of the race is coming up, and to pull over in those situations.
I think they talked about this on a lot of podcasts this week, especially because of Bristol. How many cars were? Some cars were 50 laps down in that race, and the minimum speed was not right. Like if you're that far down, you shouldn't be mixing up the leaders. I don't care how fast you are. If you can outrun them and get your 1 lap back, you have to. That person is obviously either never raced up front to know what it's like to have a race taken away from them, or they're just that type of person and the racer, and you're just never going to change them.
Well, he was a newer guy, so I mean, maybe he just didn't know that when you got 3 cars racing like that for a good finish, that you just let them go. Even if you're faster, you just stay off the gas and just let them guys battle out. But I was a little disappointed, but it was still P5 and OBRL. I'll take that any day.
I think the lesson learned is know who you're racing. If you're 30 laps down, and there's a guy who's also 30 laps down, go race that guy. But if there isn't a guy that's on the same lap as you, who are you racing? You need to be aware of that and stay out of the way and that kind of thing. Yeah.
You should have brought him down into the trailer after the race and kind of give him a little lesson in racing etiquette.
Well, one of the 3 guys who was in that mix was Steve Thompson, and he did give him a little warning, it's just like, hey, what are you racing for? And he kind of backed off a little after that, but by then it was like 2 laps to go, and I just didn't have time to try to get back up with those guys. But so yeah, it's just a learning experience for somebody, I guess. I don't think it would have changed my finish. I still think I would probably finish behind those 2 guys, but I think we could have mixed it up a little bit before the end of the run.
Well, hopefully he can take that as a learning point and apply it the next time he finds himself into that kind of situation.
Okay, what else? Hosted. I poke around in Hosted, and I saw something new in there that I usually don't see, and it's because of the new content that they gave us, the new free content. And I think everyone forgets about this. The UMP Modified, the dirt. Boy, that was fun. I ran that at Lanier. I think I ran it at Knoxville, but a couple tracks. There were some hosted races. That car is so weird because it's like off center. It's like kind of jacked up on the left and it's way down on the right, and the left front wheel doesn't even touch the ground, and it's kind of funky to drive. You really have to be on throttle, and you can't be off throttle at all or the thing just turns around. I also had some experience for the first time with the Pro Mazda, which is an open wheel car that's now free that I've never had before. We raced it at another brand new free track called Southern National. And so it was an oval race of the Pro Mazdas at Southern National. And it was a really neat combination. The Pro Mazda kind of reminds me of the Skippy car. Kind of a lower horsepower open wheel car, and the Southern National is not a bad little short track. It's got a little bit of banking in the corners, and it was a nice combination. Had fun with it.
Yeah, I gotta download some of that new stuff. I haven't even downloaded some of it, so I'll make sure I get to that and play around with it. It's fun.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware that I had access to it until I saw it and hosted, and I'm like, oh, well, let's try it. And with that, let's jump to final thoughts. Brian McCubbin.
Okay, well, first, real quick, just to go back what I was talking about, I don't want to disparage the league or anything because it was a fantastic race. 145 laps, green flag racing. Really great racing at the OBR all the time. So I'm not discouraged or anything like that. It's still a great league, and the hosts are awesome. And the other thing was, I remember telling you guys a couple weeks ago, I ordered one of those wind simulators from Simnetics, and it finally came in the other day, and I'm getting ready to hook it up and see how it works. It's really cool. It's a lot of 3D printed parts that look very solid. It snaps perfectly on top of my DD base, direct drive base for Fanatec. Fits on there perfect. It's got clamps that hook it directly to 80/20, so it's going to be for the fans. So it's going to be real easy to hook that stuff up. So I'm looking forward to get that set up and giving it a run.
That's where it's got the fan opening on either side of your wheelbase?
Yeah, right up top, it's got two little, I call them horns, but it's where the air comes through, and it's got two flexible hoses that go from the fans to the mounting bracket on your direct drive base on left and right. I think you can even set the different your left and right side fan speeds separately. If you're doing something where the wind might be different on one side or the other, I think it'll do that. But I haven't gone through everything yet. No, I'll find out and I'll let you guys know next time.
Hey, Mike, I think we're getting it wrong here. We're trying to send Dave's money. I think Brian's the one we need to start going after to spend money on.
He's spending it, yeah. I'm curious how loud the thing is going to be. All right, David Hall, what's your final thought?
Got a couple of things for you. Even though I'm not driving it myself yet, I'm really enjoying having that new LMP2 car in both the IMSA and Le Mans series. Particularly in IMSA, the prototype class actually exists again, and so it's actually pretty fun because I'm still running the GTE class, and there's actually a faster class that I have to be careful not to turn down on when they're dive bombing you. And there's sometimes when it's necessary for them to dive bomb you. It's pretty nice actually to see that class be complete again, and it's also causing the GT fields to not be overly swelled. And then speaking of road racing, me and Greg are running the 1000 at Bothurst this weekend. He's going to be the anchor, and I'm going to be struggling just to not wreck the car.
Did you say that was that butt hurts?
Butt hurt.
It usually results in a lot of hurt butts. Yes.
Bathrooms. David, I may be the anchor, but the thing is I was saying earlier, I was talking with a buddy, you're going to be the one that's more of a consistent pace, which you're normally used to do on the road. I got some speed. I just got to get more consistency out of myself.
Most of my good finishes, whether it's oval or road, most of the time are just because I don't fall off as hard or don't make large mistakes. I just got a lot of consistency. That's my strength.
All right, Greg Hectus, final thought.
A couple things here. I don't want to go too long about this. We never did cover it in the podcast, but I was listening to Letarte on Location podcast today, and his special guest, I guess he did an interview Tuesday night before the Coke Series race. It was Steve Myers, and he had there's a whole bunch of things that I learned about 2020 about the iRacing that I didn't have any clue went on in the background with some of the stuff. I don't know. Did you guys get a chance to read what I was writing there? They talked about.
Well, you were mentioning the broadcast studio that they built, multi-million-dollar situation.
Yeah, he said that 2 years ago in their old office they started working on this this broadcast studio because they wanted to have everything in-house like they were planning, and they moved, I guess it was a year and a half ago, they moved into their new facility and they created a whole $500,000 studio or whatever, broadcast studio, so that they can do all the stuff they want there and remotely bring it out to the broadcasts that wanted to feed it. So when Fox needed something from them, they were able to just do it from this room. They've hired people that have gone to broadcasting school and multimedia stuff that just specialized in just working on that. he also mentioned in the podcast that this year they've hired a lot of staff. The big studio the big facility that they've bought, they can't even house all the people they have in it. Apparently they don't have enough room for all the people that they have working out of iRacing now too, to compensate for this year. The other thing that I found was interesting is he did mention what the count was at to start the year. In January, they were at 110,000 members, active members, which by the end of May jumped to 175,000 active members.
Wow.
Which was just a crazy spike. And obviously we know why the spike happened, but I thought that was one of the more interesting things. I also liked that they were talking about their sim, comparing it to when the Daytona Road came out and how fast they got the data out on and got that release out, and the drivers used iRacing a lot more than they used. It seemed that they were using iRacing a lot more than they used the sim for, like Toyota, Chevy, and Ford, because it was a little bit more accurate than what Chevy and Ford and Toyota had. And apparently he never named the name, but he did say there's one team that's thinking about not using the sim as much anymore, which is very interesting to hear if they thought the data was more accurate on iRacing. They also just talked about like North Wilkesboro and Nashville Fairgrounds, but the thing that I think everything that was left out about North Wilkesboro when they made it, the video with the Dirty Mo Media and stuff, they made it seem like they did it all in that one day, but apparently it took a week, and it was done by the Bristol and Charlotte staff that did it for the week before, and then they just came and filmed on the last day when iRacing was there. So that was kind of interesting to hear about. And the major thing that I thought was cool too is this Auto Club Speedway that they've been talking about has been in works since April. They've had many different models that they've gone over with NASCAR and tested them on the track, and they've put their input. They've tried a couple things that didn't work, that they've made suggestions and keep going back and forth, and they said that the final product should be out in the next little bit here in their iRacing, that they can test to final product to submit to NASCAR to show the data. But apparently it's Steve and Ben Kennedy are the only two people that have run laps on that Auto Club Speedway, which is interesting too. So I just thought it was an interesting interview because, you know, you got a lot. It felt like Steve was a lot more forward with a lot of the stuff that he was talking about, and it was just a good, quick 45-minute interview, and he talked a lot about stuff that I don't know if it's been shared at all on the sim in the last little while.
Pretty cool. I'll have to check that out for sure. All right.
Also, I just want to say that you can follow me on twitch.tv/FrozenCactus, Frozen with 2 O's, Cactus 2 K's. We'll be streaming. David, I don't know if are you going to be streaming for Saturday?
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah,
so we're both going to be up streaming. Come join us. Come keep us going, and hopefully we can finish that Butthurt 1000. Is it, David?
I hope it's not for us, but yeah.
I hope not too.
Okay, Tony Groves, final thoughts.
Yeah, I got a couple things as well. First one, the ladies of iRacing have another race coming up this Saturday. They are calling it a meet and greet fun run. It's going to be a street stock race for 50 laps with a fixed setup at the Legacy Michigan International Speedway. And they say it's a stress-free race to introduce the ladies to the fun of iRacing. This will not be your man's testosterone-crazed racing. So I've been told that they've filled a bit of their ranks, but they're using this to hopefully bring some more women on over and fill out the roster and have themselves a great race. So we'll see how that goes. We'll be talking about it next week to give the results to that. I believe the OBRL will be broadcasting the race for them. So look for it on their channels come Saturday night. And the last thing I got is the aftermath. We record this Saturday, and we got Mr. Brian McCubbin coming on. He's going to join us. We got some things to talk about Saturday night. Hopefully, Saturday night. We'll see. We'll call it Saturday-ish, but we'll have it out for everybody to listen to by Sunday for sure. And yeah, looking forward to that. So check it out.
All right, looking forward to that. And they say they're going to race in a stress-free environment, but wait till that last restart, and we'll see if the stress-free goes away.
Yeah, that's always it, eh? It's always fun and games and laughter until that last lap, and then elbows up.
That's right. Checkers or wreckers. Okay. My final thoughts. I want to talk NIS, the ups and downs of a NASCAR season. You think after all these years I would have it figured out, but it's just as frustrating as ever to get a P2 at Bristol and be in position to win, and then to fall through the field, the next week at Vegas, from a top 10 to 33rd, in just 40 laps. It's humbling, and it kind of makes your confidence go up and down and up and down. I was so confident coming out of Bristol, going into Vegas, and I actually won Vegas in the spring, and I was like junk out there, I was junk, and man, that's just kind of the way this goes. And I always tell people, hey, if it was easy, nobody would do it. And with that, we'll see you on the track. Later.